go in then. Mrs. Green. Have you found my husband's killer? Well, I don't know. Potentially. Tin Spoon has a back exit. It's a back door that only the female performers can use. Is that right? Isn't that right, Mrs. Green? Oh, yes, I think you're right. I stepped out at some point during the night, Mrs. Green admitted. Sometimes a girl needs fresh air, but I couldn't have been gone long. I was in the billiards room most of the night. So, Mrs. Green had no alibi at the time of Connor's death. I noted that and continued asking other questions. Right, okay. Is this the thing here? I'd like it if there was a note here. Where are you on this list? Yeah, has no alibi. Redstone Stable has no alibi. Okay. So I assume I need to then... So they've got the opportunity, and I need to find the means and the motive. I mean, that kind of points to... I asked her about the gun. 45. We talked for a while about that, but I got nothing out of her. Tiny Paul. His gun is missing. Tiny Paul's gun is missing. He says only somebody close to him could grab it. What are you implying, Miss Malone? She questioned. Just that anybody in the billiards room could have taken his gun? Miss Malone, I'd be crazy to try and take a gangster's gun. He'd have shot me with it first. I'm not close to Tiny Paul. No, I don't think I've got anything about that yet. Okay, well, we'll ignore that. We'll ask about... Guns at Stables Racetrack. I found a gun at Stables Racetrack, I said. Redstone Stable? Malone, my husband thought that the stable was chasing him. Do you think that's the gun that killed my husband? It could be, but I don't have enough evidence to go to the stable just yet. But you found the gun at his racetrack. Yes, but I need to prove more. That's where you can help me. Okay, not useful. Why were you following... Oh, I've already asked this, haven't I? I must have done. Why were you following her husband? But she's stuck with the same story. Right, they've both got opportunity. I need to find out the means and motive. Well, the means the gun! I'm going to go back to Southern Coffee. Try and ask him about something. Because eventually you get to a point where you need to ask him things. That's what happened last time. Talk to the taxi man. Somewhere there ain't it, he said with a southern drawl. It's San Francisco, I replied. Expect fog? Bring a jacket. Wish I'd known that coming from Missouri. Maybe we would have stayed on the river. There was always recent transplants to the city. Well, why did you come here? Why did you come to San Francisco, I asked. Oh, you know, had dreams of adventure, dreams that my small town couldn't fill. Thought of myself as a regular Mark Twain. But you know, I recently heard a quote of his. The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. He laughed to himself. We talked for a while about San Francisco. Its overcast climate, its treacherous hills, its lush green parks. Eventually we rolled to my destination, but before leaving I asked, did Mark Twain really say that about San Francisco? The driver smiled and shook his head. Nope, but if I tell you he did, at least you'll remember a quote that's mine. I chuckled and left the taxicab. Into the coffee bar. If I was stuck on the case, a long drink with him might help. Sat down at the bar and summarised my night for Frankie, including what Shipman had told me this morning. Frankie's eyebrows raised in shock throughout the story. He was attentive and asked many questions. He shook his head in disbelief as I finished the story. This is some case, so you think you'll go through with it? I told him I thought I would. I don't know, Malone. Those Egan's rats sound dangerous. You sure you know what you're doing? I answered him with a stern look. Well, alright. Just let me know if I can help you with anything. Right. Give me a suggestion on means. Green was killed with an automatic pistol. Right. Caught me up on that. So you need to find that weapon and place it in someone's hand. You won't have an easy go of it, though. Be careful. These mob guys can be dangerous. What else did you want to talk about? Yeah, I know I've got to do that. I'm not stupid. What about motive? How can I improve motive? Find a reason for someone wanting Green dead. If he's part of Egan's rats, that might be reason enough for someone to bump him off. Malone, be careful. They're notorious out east. If they're here, how... He trailed off. I nodded. Anyhow, what else do you want to talk about? I was hoping for kind of like a... This is how you do it. The holster. Can I do something with this? I brought up Tiny Paul's empty holster again, but we couldn't make heads or tails of it. Got anything else? The gun. No, the gun at the racetrack. I found this gun on Stable's racetrack grounds, I said to Frankie. So you think that could be the murder weapon? That could point to Stable as the killer. I nodded, but still needed more information. Yeah, well, it could do. I still need to work things out. Okay, so I've used the fact that Tin Spoon has a back exit. How do I get this to work? I've got to try and... Someone close could snag his gun. I pointed something in my book, but Frankie's response was nothing memorable. Never mind. Oh, that's a thing, actually. She kept throwing him. I mean, that's what it said. It was like she kept throwing him on him. So let's go and talk to Ella Smith about the gun. Because it might be that she got the gun for Green. We'll talk to the taxi man. We talked about politics, but I don't remember exactly what. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Miss Smith. Ask notes. Someone close could snag his gun. Tiny Paul claims its holster is always in his jacket. Only him or somebody else close to him could have accessed it. I showed her something in my notes, but ooh. Can I? Stable has no alibi. Can I ask about that? Sorry, I don't know anything about that. That's more of a note for me, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to work out... Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a way to kind of contradict Green about how close she is to Tiny Paul. Have I actually asked Paul about the fact she's a singer there? I may have done. I can't remember. Let's talk to the driver again. Long shift, I ask? Exhaled the driver, with as much gravel as a cement mixer. Been on the road 6 hours, probably pulling another 6 before I go back to the missus. Seems like I waste away in this taxi while the boss just overflows his coffers. I wasn't in any mood to get into somebody else's life problems. I had enough of my own. I just nodded and looked out the window until we reached our destination. Back in. Hello. Cluster of brown glass bottles were on the far table. They were empty. The oil paintings that hung on the wall had no particular theme. One had roses, another showed a landscape, but each of their frames was ornately carved from a fine word. The flowers! I'm a complete moron. The greenhouse, their wilting plant. I know a girl who likes flowers like the ones on your table. I said to him, called Green. She likes yellow flowers. How do you figure that? I don't think he liked the way it figured. He stared at me, eyes ablaze. That told me all I needed. Tiny Paul was Fanny Green's admirer. What are you saying, Malone? Just asking questions. A detective has to cover all her leads again. stay out of actually accusing people. There we go. So she has the means. She seems to have a motive, like she thought he was jealous, and she has the opportunity. Let's talk to the taxi cab driver as we go around. We talked about politics, but it wasn't particularly interesting. Mrs. Green. Right, okay, so... do I ask you? Yeah, let's ask about... No, the holster. Ooh, hello. No, the holster. What are you implying, Miss Malone? Just that anybody in the balloons room could have taken it? I'd be crazy. Not close to Tiny. Well, you might not be close to him, but he's close to you, isn't he? There's some flowers I found in Tiny Paul's apartment that look much like the ones you've got in here. And I've had a few sources connecting the two of you. Perhaps Paul would let you take his gun, or you get to it without him noticing, and surely he wouldn't shoot you with it. Her face turned crimson. She denied my claims with just about every word in the thesaurus, but that face told me enough. Her and Tiny Paul were having an affair, which could give her enough motive to kill her husband. And you've got a gun. You've got the... let's... So she's got motive. Let's look at my notes. Do I have... Are you going to say that she has the means as well? She had access to Paul's gun. She had motive, apparently. No alibi. Well, there we go. Let's accuse Fanny Green. Accusing someone of murder was certain to agitate them. I knew it was not something I should do lightly. They would refuse any further casual chats. But if I was confident that she had killed Connor, including knowing the means, motivation, the opportunity for her to do so, I knew I should accuse her. Well, let's have another look at this. No alibi, having an affair, which is apparently the motive. She had access to Paul's gun. Accuse. You killed your husband. A stillness permeated the room as I spoke words. I can prove your means, motivation, and opportunity for the murder. Fanny's face contorted like I'd first seen her in Southern Coffee. She bolted me. What are you saying? I love my husband dearly. How dare you accuse me of murder? She huffed away out of breath, but she gave me a chance to prove it. Prove the means. Paul's gun. Tiny Paul's gun is missing, and he says only somebody close to him could grab it. What are you implying, Miss Malone? She questioned with raised eyebrow. There were some flowers I found in Tiny Paul's apartments that look much like the ones here. I've had a few sources connecting you. Would an affair give you motive enough to kill your husband? Her face turned crimson. She denied my claims with just about every... Yes. She would give a reason. I'd shown Mrs. Green that Paul's missing gun could have been the murder weapon. Considering her affair with Tiny Paul, she also would have had the perfect motive to kill her husband. I just needed to prove, had the opportunity. Well... She doesn't have an alibi. She could have stepped out using the hidden entrance. You admitted to being gone for parts of the night. That could have given you the perfect opportunity to murder your husband. She huffed at that for a while, but it stuck. It was clear now. I put it to her, Mrs. Green, you're the only one of my suspects with provable motive, means, and opportunity for murder. You knew you had to leave your husband. You loved Paul, and as often happens, you began hating Connor because of it. So you'd hailed him to see what he was scheming. Maybe you could sink his plans and have the mob do your dirty work. And then you met me. You learned your husband had been receiving death threats, and you knew that was your play. If he died, police would just blame it on the underground. So last night, after your singing, you called Connor to the Tin Spoon. You snuck out of the billiards room the back way, taking Paul's gun with you. And that's when you shot him. She looked at me hotly, about to burst, but then she sighed and stared at her feet. She began to cry. However many opiates were running through her blood, they had lost all their effectiveness. I put an arm around her as she wept. Con had made my life miserable, she said between sobs. Look around this dump. That's how ruined I am inside. Oh, that manipulative little sneak. You're right. I hated him. It's why I started going with Paul in the first place. She balked at my surprise. Oh no, I never loved Paul. I wanted him to kill Connor. But after learning about Ella, she trailed off. Oh, how could I convince Paul if he loved someone else? I'd no way of leaving Connor. I slumped back into misery. What about a divorce? Divorce? She screamed the word back at me. Connor would never give me that. They say we're emancipated, sure. but we still need our husband's permission to leave his home. It was the only good thing that bum owned, and he would never let go of me. Or I was the only good thing. That's why I was chasing him yesterday. If I could prove infidelity, I'd demand a split in court. I got all excited when I saw you standing in your doorway. She started breathing more heavily. I had to follow you to make sure, but I was certain I had my out. Only it happened you were above board. You're a detective, and I was still trapped. After we met, I came home to find Connor waiting for me. He said we'd be leaving for St. Louis. She took a gasp of air and continued, leaving everything I'd known for a place I'd never been, with a man I didn't love. I couldn't do it, and I told him so. And then he struck me. She wiped away her tears, and with them came her blush and thick camouflage powder. A liver-coloured spot the size of a silver dollar showed on her cheekbone. He just marched out the door, she continued through her waterworks. And I didn't know what to do. But then you thought of Paul's gun, I concluded, for her. That's right. Maybe Paul wouldn't kill Connor, but I knew he carried a cannon, and I knew I could get to it. So you took Paul's gun and killed your own husband, I said. No, she said. No, that was my plan, but... She broke off in sentence with a sniff and started another. I went to Paul's apartment late in the afternoon and grabbed his pistol. Then I came back here. I sat in this chair, petting the gun in my hand, wondering if I could do it. That's when he came in. Your husband? I offered. No. A much kinder man. Oh, he listened so well. I even told him about... She paused. About my plan. This other man, you know him? I asked. She nodded a yes. He said he understood everything. He said he could frame the murder. He said not to worry. He took the gun. Oh, she cried. But I couldn't let him go through with it, you see. That's why I left the Tin Spoon last night. To stop him. That's when I met Redstone Stable. In response to my raised eyebrow, she explained, I only met him last night. I had no idea that he had anything to do with my husband until this morning. The police told me at the station that Connor had suspected Stable. But I knew instantly that he was a terrible man. A woman's intuition never lies. Stable talks like a snake, and has the look to match. So you were both searching for the same person last night? I asked. Yes, but he wasn't around, I think. She sobbed. I'm tired of this, I said. Who is it? It's the owner of that hat, she said, pointing to it. It's Franklin. Frankie? I asked. She continued slowly. Yes, he took the gun from me yesterday. I was too dazed to argue. Nice story, I said, but you still fit the bill just fine. Phyllis, even if I had the gun, how can I know where to plant it? I only met Stable last night, and I knew nothing about him. Franklin had known about the case from you, isn't that right? You're only telling this to me now? What's the big idea stringing me along? Phyllis, she said softly, Franklin did this for me. He saved me. If that awful man Stable had to take the fall so that Franklin could stay free, well, she trailed off. I shook my head and looked at her. If she was telling the truth, Stable could confirm it. If she was lying, I thought, what if she ran? Well, she would get stopped soon enough. Good looks can be a curse, and be a cinch to snatch her. Besides, with those opiates in her, she would have difficulty standing, let alone running anywhere. I gazed at her and she understood what I was thinking. I'll be right here if you come back. I wondered why she would fabricate such a story if she knew she was stuck, and I thought, what if it was the truth? I had to speak with Frankie.